Robot simulations, AI memory research that'll make you do a double take, and new AR glasses dropping left and right. The AI world is buzzing today, folks, so let's dive right in.
It really is like a tidal wave of innovation. And what I find so fascinating is that it's impacting everything around us, from the devices we use to like the very nature of intelligence itself.
Okay, so let's start with something I think everyone will be really into, something pretty tangible. Snap just came out with their fifth generation spectacles. Fifth. You got to hand it to them. They're really committed to making this whole AR thing happen, huh?
Yeah.
Remember like 5, 6 years ago when everyone was saying AR was going to be the next big thing?
Oh, yeah. It's been a long, winding road for AR to, really break into the mainstream. But these new spectacles, they're definitely turning heads. And it's because they've got some seriously cool tech under the hood. We're talking multimodal AI and contextual understanding.
Okay, so those are some pretty impressive buzzwords for sure. But for those of us who don't speak fluent tech, break it down for me. What does that actually look like in action? If I'm wearing these glasses, what am I seeing?
All right, so picture this. You're walking down a crowded street, right? And your glasses, they actually recognize your friend's face in the crowd. Or say you're, I don't know, walking past a restaurant and boom, reviews just like pop up right there in your field of vision. That's the power of this contextual understanding they're talking about. The AI is actually processing all this information from your surroundings, like what it sees, what it hears even,
Yeah.
and it uses that to give you like personalized, right in the moment insights.
Okay, I have to admit, that's pretty slick. But before I run out and buy a pair, I got to ask Lee. The article mentioned a $99 monthly subscription. Is Snap asking us to empty our wallets for these things?
Yeah, it's definitely a premium price tag, no question. But it sounds like, at least for now, they're focusing on developers with this launch. It's like Snap is giving them the keys to this like super advanced AR playground, And they're saying, go wild, build the future of AR.
So it was a long game they're playing.
Mm.
But it does make you wonder, I mean, if these glasses can already do all that, recognize faces, give us tailored information, what are the implications for privacy down the line?
Absolutely. It's definitely something to keep in mind. As this technology evolves, so do the questions surrounding it.
A lot to think about for sure. Speaking of mind-bending tech, we got to talk about this AI memory research. The article I sent you. Let's just say Schrodinger makes a surprise appearance.
Now we're getting to the really juicy stuff. But okay, before we dive headfirst into the world of AI memory, I'm curious. When you hear the word memory, what's the first thing that pops into your head?
I mean, for me, it's like the brain's filing cabinet, right? The place where we store all our experiences, our knowledge,
It's
everything.
like a classic way to think about it. But this research paper, it takes a slightly more, shall we say, philosophical approach. It's less about storage and more about the connection between input and output, like how a specific question can spark a memory, or a certain prompt can trigger a response.
Interesting. So how does that apply to AI? Are they saying AI can actually remember things like we do?
In a way, yes. They did this really cool experiment actually with poems, thousands of poems, and the AI was able to like remember and even reconstruct these poems using just tiny prompts like the author's name or the title.
Wait, hold on. AI is memorizing poetry now. Okay, that's kind of impressive, I have to admit. But why poetry? Why not just, like, feed it an encyclopedia or something?
See, that's the really clever part. It wasn't about rote memorization, like a computer just storing data. This was about seeing if the AI could really understand the poems on a deeper level, if it could use its knowledge of language and style and poetic structure to recreate something new. It's like
Hmm.
asking, did you really get that poem, or were you just, parroting it back?
And what did they find out? Was the AI actually getting the poem?
Yeah. And that, my friend, is where the whole Schrodinger's memory concept comes in. It suggests that we don't actually know what the AI knows until we ask it. It's kind of like until we give it a prompt, its memory is in this state of potential, like that famous cat in the box, remember?
Both exciting and a little bit creepy, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's kind of like who knows what's really going on in those AI brains, right? Speaking of brains and, well, trying to build them, let's switch gears a bit and talk robots. This article about a company called 1X really caught my eye. They're trying to solve this challenge of getting robots to actually understand the real world, something that we humans, we kind of take for granted, don't we?
Totally, yeah. It's a huge hurdle in robotics, getting them out of the lab and into, our messy, unpredictable world. And 1X, it seems like they're taking a pretty innovative approach. They're using something they call a world model.
Okay, world model. That sounds a little, I don't know, Matrix-y, don't you think?
Maybe just a tad. But in reality, it's actually quite clever. It's essentially a robot simulator, but on a whole other level of sophistication. Instead of spaceships and lasers, the simulator, it's all about training robots to navigate the ins and outs of our world, our human world.
So instead of just like setting a robot loose in my apartment and hoping for the best, they can practice in this virtual world first.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like a giant virtual playground where they can expose these robots to thousands of hours of real-world robot data.
Wow, thousands of hours. That's wild. So it's like giving a robot a crash course in being human 101, but like on fast forward.
Exactly. And the article mentioned something that I thought was super interesting, this idea of predicting deformable objects.
Okay, I'll be honest. I'm not entirely sure what that means. Deformable objects.
So think about it this way. Imagine a robot trying to fold laundry. You've got clothes, towels, all these things that are constantly changing shape. That's what they mean by deformable. And for a robot, predicting how those objects are going to move, how they're going to react, it's incredibly complex. But this world model, it allows them to get much better at handling those kinds of situations.
Ah, okay. That makes so much more sense.
Yes.
I've definitely seen those videos, the ones where robots are trying to do simple tasks and it just ends up being a comedy of errors. So this kind of technology could really be a game changer for making robots truly helpful in our daily lives, not just, cool tech demos.
Right, exactly. And think about the possibilities here. Robots that could assist surgeons with delicate procedures or maybe even handle fragile objects like in a museum or something. The applications are pretty mind-blowing when you really start to think about it.
It is pretty mind-blowing.
Okay.
Okay, so for our last deep dive today, let's shift gears one more time and talk about Intel. Now, Intel, they're a giant in the tech world, and it seems like they're making some pretty big moves in the AI space lately.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of people have been watching Intel closely, especially in light of their financial situation. There's been a lot of pressure on them to maybe sell off some assets, but instead, they seem to be doubling down on their foundry business, which is interesting.
Foundry business. Okay, that for a quick translation. In plain English, what does that even mean?
Sure, of course. So at its core, Intel makes chips, right? The brains of our computers, our smartphones, all that. But they also have these massive factories called foundries where they make chips for other companies. And what they're doing now is they're turning this foundry operation into a more independent business unit within Intel.
So it's like a spin-off, but not really? Like, why go through all that trouble?
It's a strategic move for sure. What it does is it gives this foundry business more flexibility. They can be a little more nimble, a little more like a startup, even within this giant corporation.
So they're shaking things up a bit.
Yeah.
But speaking of shaking things up, what's the deal with this Amazon partnership? I thought that they're teaming up with Intel on something.
Oh, yeah, this is a big one. So Amazon just signed a deal with Intel, and we're talking multi-year, multi-billion-dollar deal to develop custom AI chips. It's huge news in the tech world and a major vote of confidence in Intel's technology.
Wow, that is huge. But hold on, doesn't that seem a little strange considering they also just press pause on those factory constructions in Germany and Poland?
It does seem like they're playing a bit of 3D chess right now, making some very calculated moves. It's like they're trying to focus on key partnerships, like this one with Amazon, while also navigating, the whole global chip shortage and supply chain uncertainty.
It's a lot to keep track of, that's for sure. But I guess that's why we do these deep dives, right? To
Yeah.
really unpack these stories and, I don't know, kind of connect the dots in a way that's tough to do when you're just like scrolling through headlines.
100%, yeah. It's easy to get lost in the day-to-day, but when you take a step back, when you see these trends emerging, it's pretty remarkable.
It is. Okay, so let's do a quick recap for our listeners, kind of bring it all home. We've got AI-powered glasses that could revolutionize how we experience the world around us. We've got AI blurring the lines between memory and, like, dynamic creation, and robots that are well on their way to navigating our world with, like, almost human-like understanding. It's a lot to process. So as we wrap up, what's the biggest takeaway you want to leave our listeners with?
I think the biggest takeaway here is that the future of AI, it's not some far-off thing, It's being written right now. And it's not just one company or one research lab. It's a global effort. We've got tech giants, we've got startups, researchers. They're all pushing the boundaries of what's possible. And as these technologies, they start to converge, as they start to intertwine, well, that's where it gets really interesting. Who knows what incredible innovations are going to emerge, right? It's an exciting time to be paying attention, that's for sure.
You said it. And on that note, I think we've done our due diligence for today's deep dive. We've traveled from augmented reality to robot simulations, even explored the mysteries of AI memory. It's been quite a ride. So from both of us, thanks for joining us on this exploration of the ever-evolving, always fascinating world of AI And until next time, stay curious, everyone.